Hey y'all, Monk Joseph here with the Broken Buddha. Today we're going to have a nice long talk about the Huiyin cavity as it's called in Eastern medicine. In Western medicine it's called the pelvic floor muscles, and to those ignorant to Eastern and Western medicine it is called your taint. Now this is actually really important in not only just yoga and martial arts but your overall health. A lot of people have issues as they age with incontinence, which is wetting yourself, and or erectile dysfunction. Both of these issues come from an unhealthy pelvic floor muscle. So the reason we're talking about this is because there's a lot of like fake complexity and back and forth and uncertainty about these things in martial arts and meditation. So I'm going to cover it the best that I can. And we'll just jump right into it. So I've been told by certain, arguably the most famous kung fu teacher in the country, among others, that you should never keep it compressed all the time for your exercising. It's dangerous. You can seal it. And it's not entirely true. If you're doing pelvic floor muscles or Huiyin cavity muscles exercises every day, then you wouldn't worry about that. It doesn't matter how much extreme reverse breathing you're doing with your Huiyin cavity closed or sealed tight for the in-breath and the out-breath, like an Ashtanga yoga every day. I mean, just breathe into your Huiyin cavity 108 times every day and you won't have that problem. And you can do it with either Buddhist breathing or Taoist breathing. Obviously, it's something you should probably do more relaxed, like Buddhist breathing, as everything's settling down into the lower dantian as you're breathing into your stomach. Just let it expand. This is not going to be a simple process if you've never gone through this, because like when I went through doing 108 breaths, I used to have this job where I was doing retail, and I would do 108 breaths, regular breathing, then reverse breathing, back and forth all day. And when I first started this process, I would wet myself a little bit constantly. Nothing crazy. I'm not like having to go home and change my pants in the middle of the work, but you get a couple drops here, a couple drops there. But now when I do either my regular breathing or my reverse breathing, ain't nothing coming out of there. Even if I'm like pushing, I mean, unless I'm intentionally trying to make myself pee or urinate, it's not going to happen. But I went through a process where I had to slowly strengthen these things. And this is important for two reasons. In your advanced yoga practices or in your kung fu practices, sometimes you get a little more pressure down there than you may think or be comfortable with, and you may have a little bit of, you may wet yourself a little bit. You won't have that problem anymore if you exercise your Huiyin cavity. And you don't have to do it 108 times a day forever. I only did it 108 times back and forth like that for the period of that job. And now that it's over, I'm good to go. I don't ever have those kind of problems when I'm breathing. No matter how I'm breathing, no matter how hard I'm breathing, I ain't wetting myself. I never had a problem with incontinence or ED. Even if you're not having a problem with ED, you will still notice a benefit from doing it. You know, if you're a male and you're doing these things, you may think these things are irrelevant to you because you're a middle-aged or a younger middle-aged male or even a younger age male, but as you're doing this exercise, you will more than likely start waking up with a kickstand every morning and be like, oh, like I wasn't having any problems, but that's better. So you do have that too. When you're doing it for reverse breathing, and also another reason why this gets very, very confused. Sorry to go to change topic here real quick, but I'm not changing topic. Anyway, not the point. Another reason why this gets confusing is because anytime you're doing meditation or kung fu, you want to do what's called keeping the vase sealed, which means the top of the vase is your rib cage. You want to keep your rib cage compressed, no matter whether you're doing regular breathing or reverse breathing. The bottom of the vase is your Huiyin cavity. So experimenting with that for a time period to know how to seal it. Like right now, I can open my Huiyin cavity and I can seal it. And sealing it doesn't mean clenching it. They'll say clench all your peeing and pooping muscles. You don't necessarily have to do that, especially if you're healthy down there and you can just seal the Huiyin cavity. And the best way to experience this is do a regular breath into your stomach or a Buddhist breath into your stomach and, release the urinary or peeing muscles a little bit, release the rectal muscles or pooping muscles a little bit, and you'll find this balance where you're actually breathing it like a balloon. And that cavity is also part of the Wang Ting cavity, which is from the false front dantian all the way to the back of your kidneys and down to the Huiyin cavity. You have this whole massive space that should be able to operate as one piece. And that's what you're going to be doing more for the health stuff. If you're not building chi and keeping the vase sealed or projecting out and doing like a hard seal, then you should be expanding all of it slightly. So there's that. There's two takes on this. To be honest, I haven't done my candle tests yet, so I can't say this definitively, but the arguable head of Wing Chun in America told me when you're doing anything, when you're trying to get any biologic function to your fingertips, like for whipping chi or touch style Denmark, it's a touchy subject, I'm not going to get into it with anybody, you want to compress on the in-breath and on the out-breath. And when you're doing something external, that's a better way, I should have said it. When you're doing something external, Shaolin, drilling punches, you want to allow your lower abdomen to expand, but keep the Huiyin cavity sealed. So better, let me refine that a little bit. For internal, you want it all sealed for in-breath and out-breath, for like extreme internal. For external, even extreme external, you want to keep the Huiyin cavity sealed, but allow the lower dantian to expand and hit that girdle vessel. And also, it's not just that. When you're doing that stuff, it's also part of like when you're rooting yourself, that's part of your rooting. You're slamming your organs down into your pelvic floor. And if you ever watch my video on reverse breathing, that's what I'm talking about when I say, imagine there's an arrow shooting down and you're catching it with your Wangtang cavity or your lower dantian and your Huiyin cavity, and you're kind of compressing. It's just part of the rooting, part of the dropping, part of, you will get some biologic stimulation when you hit your girdle vessel like that, but it's more structural. It's not as internal as people think it is. It's part of the structure. I mean, you're dropping half an inch every time you strike. You're rooting your feet straight down through your center of gravity into the earth, and you're dropping your organs. And if you're doing anything whip-like, if it's external, it's like, just like when you shoot that whip, or you actually use a whip to whip things, it helps to have that. Like when you're here and then you drop back with the whip, you kind of solidify and drop. So it's the same thing. You're just adding more into that stable base for the whip to fire out of. All right. So I think that's all I got. Like I said, I know it's very widely misunderstood, and you understand why now, but I think I just explained it better than I've ever heard any Kung Fu master or Qigong expert explain it to me. Because a lot of times when you ask these questions, they haven't done the experiments that they need to practice this and tell you. Like myself, I just told you I've never done the candle experiments. I have to build up a ton of bioelectric function and then do experiments with a candle flame, sitting, standing, reverse breath, regular breath, with the Huiyin cavity, without the Huiyin cavity. And that's how you test these things. You can call it whatever you want, say it's hocus pocus as much as you want, but do it for yourself. There's a good chance you're never going to it takes a lot of work to really build up that kind of bioelectric function, but it is possible. And after all those experiments, I'll be more than happy to share my progress with you guys, so and then you can go do it for yourselves to prove me wrong or experience the awesomeness for yourself. But there you have it. I just wanted to touch base on this because it's really not that complex. There's a ton of health stuff to be gained, health benefits to be gained by understanding these things and by exercising these things. And start strengthening. Next time you're at work, next time you're doing something leisurely, just breathe into your Huiyin cavity 100 times, then seal it and do a reverse breath 108 times, or keep it unsealed and go up and down. I'll do some more stuff on reverse and regular breathing here for meditative purposes coming up soon, but I don't want to get off topic, so I'll leave that alone today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't enjoy it, I hope it was at least informative for you. Thank you for stopping by the Broken Buddha. Peace and blessings.